Hi guys, welcome to Things I've Learned Along the Way. This series is about mental health and self-care. I'm not a health professional and mental health affects everyone differently. I'm just sharing some of my experiences, some of the things I've learned from them and some of my opinions. So I hope you enjoy the video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you do. This episode is about the impact of suicide. So if that's something that is triggering for you, then you don't want to watch this. This video will probably be split into two parts. This one is going to focus on some of the things that you might go through if you have lost someone to suicide, and sharing some of my experiences with that. So when I was 18, my best friend lost his battle with depression and he took his own life. It's probably one of the most difficult experiences of my life so far, and it had a big impact in a lot of different ways. I suppose the first thing that I went through with it was feeling like I should have done more, feeling like I should have known that maybe I wasn't there for him enough, maybe there was something else that I could have said, another conversation that we could have had. And those are very difficult things that you think about in that sort of situation, and it's a form of torturing yourself in a lot of ways, because at the end of the day, if you've done your best to be there for the person, you can only be there for them as much as they let you. And if they were to some degree hiding how bad things really were for them, or hiding how hopeless they may have felt at that time, there's not necessarily anything that you could do. And if they've decided to hide that, then that's obviously what they want. It obviously wasn't something that they felt they could share, and that's not something that you have any control over. You can't sort of force somebody to share things if they're not ready to, or if they're not at that point. And really, the battle with depression is not something you can ever really help someone with. It is something that is fought on your own, for the most part. And that can be a very difficult thing to accept, even having sort of had some of the same fights myself. You still feel like you should have done something more, which it doesn't make any sense. If you've done everything that you could, if you tried to help them to the best of your ability, don't beat yourself up about it, because you could do that for years. You really could. And it would never achieve anything. It would never be true. So just cut yourself a break in that regard. If you did your best, then you did more than a lot of people would. It doesn't make it any easier, but it's the truth. One of the other things that you go through is, I suppose, another form of guilt in a way, because you have, or I had a tendency to think about how awful he must have felt and nobody knew, and how terrible that must have been for him, which again is a difficult thing to come to terms with. And I mean, to an extent, these things don't go away in my experience. You learn to live with them and they become easier to handle, but sometimes something will trip something in your brain and you'll think about it again. So it's the same with any kind of loss. It's just different things that you think about. And one of the other things that sort of plagued me a lot was wondering what happened. You know, trying to piece together what it might have been that caused them to lose hope like that. And again, it's not something you can ever know. It may have been something that you wouldn't even have considered significant, but it meant something to them in that moment, and that was enough. And it could be something so simple that you'd never think of it. And you can never know for sure. You know, it could have been something that you were aware of, or it might have been something you didn't even know about. So again, try not to torture yourself with it. As much as you can, try to let it go. It's a very difficult thing to accept, in my experience, losing somebody in that way, because it feels so preventable. You know, you just feel like somebody could have and should have done something. But in all likelihood, if they had reached a point of being so desperate that they couldn't see a way to carry on, there wasn't anything you could do. You know, particularly if it was in a very private way. You know, I do think sometimes the sort of more public ways of taking your own life, like jumping from buildings and that sort of thing, not in every case, absolutely not in every case, but sometimes I think they still want to have hope that somebody might stop them. And the more public it is, the more likely I think that's the case. Whereas if somebody has just sealed themselves away and ended their life in private, they didn't want you to stop them, and if they don't want you to stop them, you can't. It's as simple as that, unfortunately. If they really have decided that that's the road they're going to take, it's not within your power to divert that. They've already come to terms with it themselves, and it's beyond anything you can do. And all these things are kind of just sort of guilt, and I think a lot of the feelings that you will feel, at least in my experience, are some form of guilt, because, like I said, it just feels so preventable. Like you could have done something even when you know you couldn't. And that is something that you'll learn to live with. It isn't something that will ever stop completely. You'll always question things when you think about it, and in time it will get less, absolutely, and you'll accept more and more the fact that it just wasn't within your power to stop it. And that doesn't help in terms of the fact that they're gone. Nothing really does except for acceptance. And this video is very much going to be more about the difficulties than anything else. As I say, there's going to be a part 2 which will be more about the more positive ways of looking at it in some respects. There may even be a part 3, I'm not sure, I may split it into 3 parts yet, I'll see when I write the other 2. But I think the strangest thing, and what, in some ways the most difficult thing to come to terms with, is thinking about what they gave up and the fact that you still have it. I can't equate that with any other experience in my life. I think that's one regard in which losing someone by their own hand, and particularly at a young age, is, at least in my experience, it's been unique to that situation. Just thinking about the choice that they made, choosing between all the potential years of your life, and nothing, as far as you know. I'm not religious. If you are, you may believe there's something beyond, but not just know. So in essence, you could be choosing nothing over many more potential decades of life. And though I had been in some pretty hopeless places before and thought about what that might mean, being faced with the reality of somebody that you care about having given that up, after that I could never consider it again. It was just such a stark reality to be faced with, that he'd looked into his future, and in all those decades he'd seen no hope. I can't imagine that. And that, ironically, is the one part of all this that somewhat makes things easier, is that even when he chose to leave, when he felt like he couldn't carry on, in that act, he still managed to teach me something one last time. And that gives me hope. If I can learn something from something that seems so senseless, that gives me hope. I realise this has been a more depressing video than usual, but I think the conversation needs to be had more, because it's difficult. I think most difficult conversations need to be had more. And that's what I'm going to try and do, even if it is hard for me. Because I think there is value in that. Nothing worth doing is ever easy, as they say. And I've decided that that's going to be an aspect of this channel, is sharing things that are quite raw. So I probably won't edit this. This will probably just get sandwiched in between title and end cards, and that'll be it. So if you like this sort of thing, if you agree that this has value, then let me know. But I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like, start a conversation, leave a video response in the comments section, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this on Mondays, videos on self-development type things on Wednesdays, and sometimes I'll release a video on various other topics on a Friday. So again, thanks for watching. My last video will be in this general vicinity somewhere. My Twitter is in the description box down below, and I'll see you next time.